This is my video reflection for Inquiry Cycle 5 for induction. Inquiry Cycle 5 is on assessing for student learning, and I chose to do this inquiry cycle, number one, because I was really unimpressed with my recent test scores for my students, but also actually my original personal goal for my TPAs from finishing my credentialing program last year was to become more familiar with how to assess, different manners to assess students, and then how to actually use that data. And while I've been trying to do it a little bit more fluidly throughout the school year, I'm not sure I've actually taken time to reflect on it. So I thought this final cycle was a good excuse to do so. So not only was it in line with my TPA goals, but it was also in line with Ms. Conkle's goals for me here at Silverado. She actually specifically said that she wanted me to commit to improving my craft as a math educator, already doing that, but through willingness to extend my capacity for instructional strategies that are research-based to be proven good first instruction, along with willingness to provide multiple intervention opportunities for students when the good first instruction techniques prove to be unsuccessful or ineffective. I remember sitting down with Ms. Conkle a couple of years ago and having a really focused conversation with her. I was really frustrated when so many of my students had failed. And number one, it really came to me as a surprise after this particular test that so many kids failed. And I kind of discovered over time that the shock to me was because I wasn't assessing mid-unit. I wasn't assessing at the end of lessons, and I wasn't using things like exit tickets and mini quizzes and even whiteboards that I'm using pretty regularly now. So I literally wasn't assessing until kids had failed a test, and then it was a shock to me. And Ms. Conkle explained to me at that time, this was probably about a year and a half ago, look, when kids go to take the driver's test for the first time, do they fail? And then the DMV says, sorry, you can never drive again. And she explained to me, in real life, we always have second opportunities when it comes to tests. So why in the classroom would we give them one opportunity to pass and then just move on from there? And that really still resonates with me today. I thought it was a great example of how tests really have less to do with the outcome on the grade book and more to do with whether or not students can improve after that. So unfortunately, this year is not very much different from my previous years of freshmen, and we continue to struggle with students just being completely apathetic towards mathematics, and then not preparing in time for an assessment. And then we regularly have students during a test, they'll look at the first or second question and say, do we get a retake for this? Do we get a second opportunity? And that's something I really struggle with as an educator, because if students are constantly going into an exam with the expectation to be able to see the test, fail the test, and retake the test, then they're never going to invest in first instruction in the first place. And that's definitely going to be an ongoing goal for me to address next year. We never want to teach to the test anyway, but what can I do to mitigate the students who are expecting a retake opportunity, so they're failing to prepare in the first place? Because morally, that's just not how any student should approach learning in general. And I already preach growth mindset in my classroom and model growth mindset in my classroom regularly, but I'm not seeing the results I would hope to see. And that's something that's the next step and something to look forward to on how to continue to tweak that into next year. If anybody has the magic answer, that would be awesome. This particular unit, I was assessing distance formula, midpoint formula, Pythagorean theorem, and students' ability to use that in real life contexts. I'll be honest, I was absent a lot coming into the assessment. Let's say that there was 10 days of instruction for this particular unit, which quite frankly should have been an 8th grade standard and a review for my students. I was absent 4 of those 10 days due to administering the SBAC and also to district mandated trainings or school mandated trainings that I couldn't get out of. And I did have one personal absence that had been pre-scheduled long before the district training. So it really kind of set this particular test up to where I wasn't confident students were going to do their best anyway, because I never trust somebody else's substitutes instruction in lieu of mine. We did do, as a department, the three of us teachers who were all stuck in the same situation, we did decide to use eMath instruction to supplement our lessons so that when students were here with a substitute, we knew that they were still getting focused note-taking and a video and a math teacher that was on the video, and to leave less to chance with whichever substitute or period sub showed up in class. But the results were still horrible. Only 25 students out of all 120 of my students who took this test scored above 80% or mastery. The remaining about 80% of students left over failed this test horribly. And I wasn't exactly sure how to deal with that because I knew a lot of it was apathy. I knew a lot of it was failing to prepare, but how much of it was because we weren't here? How much of it was because when students were learning things, they didn't have somebody to check their understanding with. I could not do much as far as fixing that, but we did go ahead and look at reteaching practices, and that will be video 2.